Welcome to PostGrid tutorial, where we'll guide you through the essential features of our platform. Before sending your first mailings, you need to specify the sender and recipient addresses. So let's learn how to do that. There are two ways of creating contacts on PostGrid. The first one is to create contacts individually. To do that, just select the Contacts tab on the left side menu. On the Contacts page, you can find the existing contacts and you can click on them to get more information. You can also use the search bar at the top to search for contacts using any known information like names, company names, or addresses. As you can see from this message on the top of the page, we are currently on test mode. So that means that every contact created here and every contact that is listed on this page is a test mode contact only. To create a contact to be using live orders, let's switch to live mode first. Let's select the Create a Contact button right here at the top of the page. This will take us to the Create a Contact page where we can fill in the required information to create our first contact. As you can see here on the bottom, we have some verification options, but let's talk more about that later. For now, I filled in the required information to create my contacts. As you can see here, I left some of these fields blank because not all of them are required to create a contact. I can then hit Create, and this will take me back to the Contacts page, where we can see that the most recent created contacts will be listed at the top. It's also possible to create multiple contacts at once by using a CSV file that contains the information of your contacts. So let's see what that looks like. This is the CSV file I'll be using to create my contacts. There are some mandatory columns that you need to have on your CSV file so PostGrid can map that information to a new contact. These mandatory fields are first name, company name, address, address to, city, province or state, postal or zip, and country code. We also included some extra columns to include information that we want our contacts to have, but you don't have to do that if it's not applicable to your case. We'll talk more about how to use this information later when we are creating templates for our mailings. Remember that the header name must match this example shown here so PostGrid can parse that information correctly. Even though it's mandatory that you include these columns, some of them can be left blank if they're not applicable to your case. For example, you need to enter a first name or a company name, but it's not mandatory that you provide both. As you can see, we have some different options here. This contact has a first name and a last name. This one only has a first name, and this one has only a company name. You can leave the address to column blank if that's not applicable to the contact, and you can also include all of the address information, such as street name, city, province or state, and zip, under the address column. Keep in mind that if you do that, you need to leave those columns blank so you don't run into any issues when uploading the file. For this example, we have some mandatory columns blank on purpose for this last contact here. When we upload our file, we get an error message about it. So let's check what it looks like. Now let's select the Upload Contacts button. Here you can choose to download a sample file as well, which looks very similar to the one that I just showed. So let's select our CSV file now. As you can see, we had 5 contacts on our file, but we get a message saying that it was possible to find 4 valid contacts only. And here at the bottom, we get an error message saying that one row is missing an address, a country code, a name, or a company name. So let's correct that and upload our file again. I'll move the name information to the first name column first. And here for the address line 1, let's enter an address for the contact. Here on the country code column, as you can see, I entered the full name of the country, but PostGrid actually expects the two-letter country code instead, so let's fix that as well. Now we can upload our file again, and we can see that all of our contacts have been created successfully. Before deleting the contact, click the Copy Contacts button here. This will take us to the Create a Contact page, but this time, the previous contact information is already pre-filled for us, so we can just make the necessary changes. Let's add a suite number to this and click Create. As you can see, after making the necessary changes, our address status now shows as verified, and we can use that to place live orders in the future. Now, we can delete the old failed contact. Let's just click the contact and select the Delete Contact button. In some cases, you might want to use the original address you entered, even if that has the status of failed. If that's your case, you can choose to override the failed status when you create the contact. Let's select one of our failed contacts and copy it. Here, we'll keep the same address information, but we'll change our verification options here at the bottom. Let's choose Skip Address Verification, and this means that PostGrid won't verify this address. As we can see here in the description, the contact verification status will be failed by default if we select this option only. So let's select the Force Verified status to override that. We can then click Create. And as we can see here, the address status for this contact is now verified, and this can be used for mailing. Let's switch to test mode to talk about one important detail. If you go to the contacts page, you can see that every address is displayed as verified. That is because PostGrid does not verify any contacts on test mode, so their statuses are set to verified by default. Keep in mind that just because a contact is verified on test mode, that doesn't mean that you'll get the same result on live mode, and you might have to use the previous steps to check for any address errors. So this is how contacts are created on PostGrid, and we now have our contacts ready to be used for when we place our first order. Thank you for joining us for this tutorial. I hope this helps you to make the most of our platform. And don't hesitate to send an email to support@postgrid.com if you have any more questions.